A couple of weeks ago, Barbara Lucas told the story of her transcendent or almost mystical experience when visiting those ruins. And she didn't quite understand it, she said, and then she came across sometime later a magazine article on the same topic about the same place or a similar place, and it had this quote that I want to share with you. You cannot come upon the ruins of the old great monasteries of England beside their waters in some lovely valley without feeling that here is one of the choice spots on earth where the Spirit dwelt. It is so important to remember that when the great Roman Empire fell into smoking ruins and wolves howled in the deserted streets of Rome and Europe really was a dark ruin, those whose souls were still alive drew together and built monasteries. Then these little communities of quiet labor and courage, isolated, helpless, and yet never overcome in a world flooded with devastation, kept the human spirit from disintegration, from going quite dark in the dark ages, unquote. And then Barbara added her own take on it, which was stunning, I thought. It brought me to tears. She said, and so even though we don't have any monasteries, I think of our Unitarian Universalist fellowships and congregations as being like those little communities of quiet labor and courage, fully committed to doing our part to keep the human spirit from disintegration in a world that is currently flooded with devastation. Wow. Well, back to our second principle. We promote the second principle, that is justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. It's a very strong central part of Unitarian Universalism. And I'm reminded, of course, of Barbara's assessment. It seems to make a lot of sense that even though the world has become a much rougher place than any of us have ever experienced or anticipated, we still haven't given up on a dream of a world or just our country being a place in which justice, equity, and compassion are the norm, and everything else is the rare exception. Unfortunately, it seems to be the opposite right now. Acts of justice, equity, and compassion are becoming more and more rare. Everything you see on the television and on the internet are acts of injustice. We're reminded of the inequity that's growing. And there certainly is a lack of compassion in the way people are treating each other. You wonder, all this nasty rhetoric and violence seems like we're falling into the smoking ruins, and the wolves will be howling in our proverbial deserted streets of our cities. And our country may become, metaphorically, a dark ruin. But then I really do agree with Barbara's final assessment. Our fellowships are one of the few places, not the only place, I know, but one of the few places where I believe hope and idealism still exists, and we're very proud of it. We don't even try to hide it. We will uphold and promote the second principle to our dying day. But frankly, given how I'm feeling and how some of the conversations I'm having with all of you and my colleagues, I think we're coming a little unglued right now. I don't know, frankly, how we can live up to this idealism of the second principle without heeding Lao Tzu's advice. Peace in the world begins with peace in our hearts. That's why I decided to do a 4-minute meditation, because I think we need to settle ourselves down and see what our hearts have in them right now. Is it peace? Because if it isn't and we can't find it there, I'm not sure that we can do much more until we get back to finding that. Now, I've been in the same boat, frankly, and I've got to share a wonderful example that helped me out. So Karen Shupi of the Open Circle Fellowship offered a mindfulness class for 6 weeks this summer. And I participated in it, and it was wonderful. It was very simple. We have meditation, and each time was a focus on a particular thing, like mindfulness eating or mindfulness breathing or just listening to the sounds around you while you're meditating. And what it did for me was pull me back to more the simplicity of mindfulness. I think as a minister, I felt like competitive or something. I had to do it better than everybody else, where I made it so complicated and I'd overthought it that I no longer was doing a spiritual practice on a regular basis. So due to Karen's class, it brought me back to the simplicity of it. And I want to share it with you today in hopes that maybe it'll spark something in you. So when I sit down every day at my desk to do my work, I want to bring myself a focus not only on my work, but remind me of whom I serve as a minister. So I have this fancy chalice here that in the silver bowl that I was given at my ordination. That's for Sunday morning. But for small group activities, if you join them, or for me personally, I use this. So it's a candle holder that actually is made to look rather primitive, but it's people sort of hugging each other with their arms around each other's shoulders around a place for a candle. And I like it because of that imagery, because I think of us. That's why I have those words that say, we light our chalice as the warmth of the community. But I didn't think that candle was big enough. I wanted something that looked like a bonfire. So I found this. So to me, it represents a glass bonfire, and I light my candle in there. And if it's a cloudy day or in the evening, I actually shut off the light and just have the candle burning. And it reminds me of the warmth of our community and us supporting each other. And I love the symbolism of it. So I do 10 minutes of meditation, which was the standard in Karen's class, and trying to focus my mind. And when that's finished, I pull out my list of people from the congregation or friends and family that I know are going through tough time right now. And the idea is that I have hopefully found the peace in my heart. And as a minister, and we all minister to each other, it's time for me to try to spread that to others. So I'm very conscious of meditating on each person one at a time, trying to understand as best I can what they're going through and see if I can send them healing energy, thoughts, peace. And I always close, of course, you know me, it has to have music. So I close with some sort of a chant or music. And this week, it is the Buddhist meditation that we started with. May I be filled with loving kindness. Now, you don't have to do anything quite as ritualistic and elaborate as I just described. I know many of you, it's a walk in the woods, it's sitting in your favorite chair and looking out into nature or at the bird feeder. It's all fine. My point is, please get back to it at this time and take this assessment like you just did. Do you find peace in your heart? Because as Lao Tzu said, it builds up. You have to have peace in your heart to then have peace in your home. And I'm not just talking about the folks you're sheltering in place with. I'm talking about our fellowship home. We, if we're going to be successful and we're going to thrive like that monastery, have to have peace in our fellowship home. Now, fortunately, we have a structure in place. We are a covenantal community. We're not about a doctrine. We don't join together in this fellowship because we all believe the same things. We covenant with each other to help support and be there for each other on our faith journeys, wherever they may lead. And it gives you the premise and the framework to have a peaceful fellowship. Every congregation has one. I'm not sure if they use them all the time, but they have one. So I pulled up Open Circles today because they recently worked on it and kind of condensed it down to something manageable to read in a sermon. So it starts like this. We covenant to be a spiritual community where we can bring our hearts, minds, and deepest convictions, knowing that we will be respected, accepted, and loved. If that doesn't lead to peace, I don't know what does. And then it provides 5 bullet points of very tactical ways that we are intentionally going to go about this. The first is we have open, honest, and inclusive communication. The second is we speak and listen carefully and assume good intent. The third, if we find ourselves in conflict with a member, we will express that concern to the member directly, striving to be open and honest, and that member should receive the dialogue in the same manner. The fourth is we will make decisions using the democratic process and try to achieve consensus whenever possible. And finally, the fifth, we will foster a safe environment for expression of ideas so that all may comfortably express their opinions. And it closes like this. We covenant to turn to this agreement in times of harmony and in times of discord, to guide our words and actions as we nurture our beloved, peaceful community. I think it's beautiful. And I encourage every congregation, every fellowship to have the covenant up in front of people as much as possible. And my way of doing that is I turned a lot of these words and concepts into something more poetic and made it our chalice lighting word. So every week we're committed to what we have promised, and we say it again as we ritually light our chalice. But now, in these times, it's more than just living out our covenant. We need to share our peace with each other. Once you find it and know that your heart has peace in it, we need to share it with each other more than ever. We don't see each other physically. So please follow up on your friends and acquaintances that you might not have seen for a while, or you haven't talked to, even if you've seen them on the screen. Don't wait for them to reach out to you. Please make an effort to reach out to them. And I would offer that you join, get out of your comfort zone and join some of the virtual activities that we offer. I mean, it's clearly Sunday morning, but stay for the breakout session. You don't have to talk, you can just listen, but it's a sign that you're supporting each other. And then there's virtual opportunities almost every week in our fellowships. It might be a men's group, a women's group, a social justice group. But even if you don't have something in your fellowship that occurs at a time you can join, I've added 4 more to help you all find a way to connect. So it's interfellowship groups. Monday through Friday at 5:30, there's a chat group. It's very informal. The purpose is to just say, hey, you're still alive. I'm happy. How's it going? Do you have peace? Is something troubling you? How's the weather? It's as if you're in your backyard talking to your neighbor over the fence. It starts at 5:30. There's always somebody there. I only join once a week, but somebody always is there. And it ends right at 6 because Jeopardy starts at 6. The 3 other groups are more discussion groups that are longer. So there's a book group, Low Pressure. We're reading a book right now that we read maybe 3 chapters, and we discuss it every 2 weeks, and it's going to last for 8 weeks because we meet every other week. So it's a way you can participate without having the stress of having to read an entire book right away. And you get to know the same group over time. There's also a movie discussion. Watch the movie ahead of time and come join us for an hour and 15-minute discussion. And then if prep just sounds like something you can't fit into your life, one Friday night, I think it's the 3rd Friday of the month, there's a Let's Talk, which basically it's a TED Talk or something like it. Show up, we'll watch it for 15 or 20 minutes and then discuss it. So easy peasy. Also tried to make it acceptable to everybody to fit into their life. They start at 7, except for the 5:30 chat, of course. But these discussion groups start at 7 and run to 8:15. And those are for the folks that they're done with dinner, they don't want to stay up late, they need to get to bed, and it fits right into that time slot. But if you're the kind that are taking care of little ones and you need to get them to bed, we do the exact same thing again at 8:30 to 9:45 to help you engage as well. So I just really want to stress both things, that we need to do the work to find peace in your heart now, and then spread it to each other if we're really going to affirm and promote justice, equity, and compassion in the world. Do it now. Our fellowship needs you, our community needs you, and frankly, our country needs you. Amen.